The stars looked different from the bridge of the Meridian. Captain Jake Morrison stood at the main window, watching the lights of distant suns. His ship was heading toward the Centauri home world. This was an important trip. Humans had just joined the Galactic Coalition, and everyone wanted to see what these new members could do. Jake turned around to look at his crew. Half of them were human. The other half came from different worlds across the galaxy. There was Commander Zethkar, a Centauri, who looked like a giant bug with 4 arms. His skin was green and hard like armor. Next to him stood Salix, a Vorthic who reminded Jake of a large lizard that could walk on 2 legs. His scales were dark blue, and his yellow eyes never seemed to blink. "Captain," said Dr. Lisa Parker as she walked onto the bridge. Behind her trotted a golden retriever named Max. The dog's tail wagged as he looked around at all the different creatures. His brown eyes were bright and friendly. Commander Zethkar made a clicking sound with his mouth. In his language, this meant he was laughing. "The humans bring their hunting beasts with them," he said through his translation device. "How strange." Salix tilted his head to one side. "Is this creature a weapon?" he asked. "It seems too small to be dangerous." Lisa scratched Max behind his ears. "Max isn't a weapon," she said with a smile. "He's my friend. Humans have lived with dogs for thousands of years. They help us, and we take care of them." "Help you how?" Zethkar asked. His voice sounded like he was making fun of her. "Dogs can smell things we can't smell. They can hear sounds we can't hear. They warn us about danger. But most of all, they love us and we love them back." The alien crew members looked at each other. Salix wrote something on his datapad. "The human shows emotional attachment to a lower life form," he said. "This could be a weakness we should note." Jake felt his face get hot with anger, but he kept his voice calm. "Max is part of our crew," he said. "He goes where Dr. Parker goes." "Of course, Captain," Zethkar said, but his clicking laugh continued. "We find human customs very interesting." Over the next few days, the aliens watched Lisa and Max carefully. They saw how Max would bring Lisa her food when she forgot to eat. They watched him lie down next to her chair when she worked late. When Lisa felt sad or worried, Max would put his head on her lap until she felt better. "Look at this," Salix said to Zethkar one day. They were watching Lisa and Max in the ship's common room. Lisa was reading reports about their mission. Max was sleeping with his head on her feet. The human cannot function without the creature near her. "It proves what we thought," Zethkar replied. "Humans are weak. They need these animals to feel safe. A truly advanced species would not have such needs." Engineer Tony Rodriguez heard them talking. He was fixing a control panel nearby. "You don't understand," he said. "Dogs aren't just pets. They helped humans build civilization. They helped us hunt for food. They protected our homes. They worked with us to explore new places." "But why?" asked Salix. "Why not just build machines to do these things?" Tony stopped working and looked at the alien. "Because machines don't love you back. Machines don't stay with you when you're scared. A dog will die to protect someone he loves. Can you say the same about a computer?" Zethkar made his clicking laugh again. "Love?" he said like the word tasted bad. "Another human weakness. We Centauri make decisions with logic, not feelings. This is why we are strong." That night, Jake couldn't sleep. He walked through the ship's halls and found Max sitting outside Lisa's door. The dog's ears were up and alert. "What is it, boy?" Jake asked quietly. Max looked at him and then back at the door. He whined softly. Jake pressed his ear to the door and heard Lisa crying inside her room. Jake knocked gently. "Lisa, are you okay?" The door opened. Lisa's eyes were red from crying. "I'm sorry, Captain. I know I should be stronger. This mission is so important, and I don't want to mess it up." Max pushed past Jake and went straight to Lisa. He sat down and pressed his warm body against her legs. Lisa's tears stopped as she petted his soft fur. "You're not weak," Jake said. "You're human, and Max helps you be the best human you can be." From down the hall came the sound of clicking. Seth Carr was watching them. "Fascinating," he said to Salix, who was also there. "The creature responds to the human's emotional distress without being told what to do." "Yes," Salix agreed, "but this only proves our point. The human needs the animal to control her emotions. A superior being would not have this problem." Jake looked at the two aliens. "Maybe," he said, "but I'd rather be human with Max than be alone like you." The aliens walked away, still talking about human weakness. They didn't see the way Max's ears moved to track every sound in the hallway. They didn't notice how his nose was always testing the air for new smells. They didn't understand that Max wasn't just Lisa's emotional support. He was her early warning system, her partner, and her friend all in one dot as the Meridian flew deeper. Into space, the aliens continued to watch and judge. They saw weakness where there was actually strength. They saw dependence where there was partnership. Soon, they would learn the truth about humans and their dogs. But by then, it might be too late. 3 weeks into their journey, the Meridian stopped at 5 different star systems. At each place, they met with local governments and trading partners. The aliens on the ship kept watching Lisa and Max, writing down everything they saw. During their stop at the Keller system, something strange happened. The ship was docked at a space station for repairs. Lisa was in her lab, working on samples from the planet below. Max was sleeping under her desk like always. Suddenly, Max jumped up. His ears stood straight, and he started whining. He ran to the wall and began pawing at it. "What's wrong, boy?" Lisa asked. Max kept scratching at the wall and barking. Lisa called security. "Something's bothering Max. Can you check the walls at Lab Section C?" The security team found a small crack in the hull. Air was slowly leaking out. The ship's computers hadn't detected it yet because the leak was too small. But Max had heard the tiny whistling sound that the escaping air made. "Good boy," Lisa said, giving Max a treat. "You probably saved our lives." Salix was very interested. In this event, he ran tests on Max's hearing. "The creature can hear sounds at frequencies much higher than humans," he told Zethkar. "Its hearing range is almost twice as wide." "Useful," Zethkar said, "but still just a tool. The humans could build electronic sensors to do the same job." "Yes, but the sensors would need power and maintenance. This creature runs on simple food and reproduces itself." At the next system, called Proxima Hub, they met with a local coalition representative. During the meeting, Lisa started feeling sick. Her hands shook and she had trouble breathing. The alien delegates watched with interest as her condition got worse. Max noticed right away. He stood up and pressed against Lisa's legs. Then he did something that surprised everyone. He went to Tony Rodriguez and pulled on his sleeve with his teeth. "What's he doing?" asked the coalition representative, a tall being with purple skin. Tony looked at Lisa and saw her pale face. "He's telling me Lisa needs help," Tony said. He quickly gave Lisa her medicine for anxiety attacks. "The animal diagnosed a medical condition?" asked the purple alien. "Dogs can smell changes in human body chemistry," Tony explained. "Max knows when Lisa is getting sick before she does. He's been trained to get help." Over the next few days, the aliens saw more examples of what Max could do. He found lost tools in the engine room by following their scent. He detected a food contamination in the kitchen before anyone got sick. He even helped find a crew member who got lost in the cargo bay, but the aliens still didn't understand what they were seeing. The creature has useful abilities, Sethkar reported to his government. But the human's dependence on it remains a strategic weakness. In combat, an enemy could target the animal to disable the human. 2 months into the mission, they received new orders. The Hegemony, a group of military planets, had invited them to visit. The Hegemony didn't like the coalition and often tested new member species. This could be dangerous, Jake told his senior staff. The Hegemony likes to find weak spots in their enemies. Lisa was in the meeting with Max lying beside her chair. What kind of tests do they usually do? She asked. Psychological warfare, mostly, Jake replied. They try to break people mentally, rather than fight them directly. Sethkar spoke up. Perhaps Dr. Parker should leave her creature on the ship. The Hegemony might see it as a sign of weakness. Max goes where I go, Lisa said firmly. He's part of my equipment, just like my medical scanner or my research tools. The aliens exchanged looks. Equipment does not require emotional attachment, Salix said. You prove our point about human weakness. Jake was getting tired of hearing this. Our weakness has kept Dr. Parker healthy and productive for this entire mission. Your logic doesn't seem to be working as well for your own crew. It was true. The Centauri crew members had been arguing with each other for weeks. 2 of the Vorthok had gotten into a fight over resource allocation. The human crew worked together much better. Humans fight too, Sethkar said. Yes, but we also forgive each other, Jake replied. We know how to make friends as well as enemies. That evening, Jake found Tony in the engine room with Max. The dog was watching Tony work, his head tilted to one side. He's a smart one, Tony said, scratching Max's ears. Smarter than most people think. What do you mean? Watch this. Tony picked up a wrench and pointed to a loose bolt on the other side of the room. Max, fetch. Max ran over, looked at several tools on the floor, and brought back the exact same type of wrench. He knows the difference between tools? Jake asked. He knows a lot of things. Dogs have been learning from humans for so long that they understand us better than we understand ourselves sometimes. Jake thought about this as he walked back to his quarters. In the hallway, he passed Salix talking to another Vorthok crew. Member, the humans don't realize how much information they're giving us, Salix was saying. Every interaction with the creature shows us their emotional patterns and psychological weaknesses. Jake stopped walking. The aliens thought they were studying humans, but they were missing the real picture. They saw Max as just an animal, and Lisa's bond with him as weakness. They didn't understand that this bond made her stronger, not weaker. As they got closer to Hegemony space, Jake had a bad feeling about what was coming. The Hegemony was known for cruel tests. They would definitely try to use Max against Lisa somehow. But Jake also realized something the aliens hadn't figured out yet. The bond between humans and dogs went both ways. Lisa protected Max, but Max also protected Lisa. And if someone threatened either one of them, they would both fight back. The aliens thought they understood human weakness. Soon, they would learn about human strength instead. The Hegemony homeworld looked like a giant metal ball floating in space. Draconis Prime had cities that stretched from the ground to the clouds. Everything was gray and sharp, built for war instead of beauty. Admiral Krextol met them at the space dock. He was huge, even bigger than the Centauri, with thick red skin and forearms. His uniform had more medals than Jake could count. Welcome, Coalition representatives, Krextol said. His voice was deep and loud. We have prepared special activities to test your abilities. Test our abilities? Jake asked. Of course. The Hegemony must know if new coalition members are strong enough to be our allies. Weak species cannot survive in this galaxy. Lisa stood beside Jake with Max at her side. The dog seemed nervous. His ears were back, and he stayed close to Lisa's legs. What kind of tests? Lisa asked. Krextall smiled, showing teeth like knives. Nothing dangerous. Simple survival exercises. We want to see how different species handle stress. Zethkar moved closer to the Admiral. The humans brought one of their domestic animals. Perhaps it should remain on the ship during your tests. No, Krextall said, looking down at Max. The creature comes too. We want to test all aspects of human capability. They were taken to a research facility on the planet's surface. The building was buried deep underground, with thick walls and heavy doors. Jake didn't like the look of it. This facility studies dangerous alien life forms, Krextall explained as they walked through narrow hallways. Perfect for testing how different species react to unknown threats. They were split into small teams. Lisa and Max were put with two Vorthic scientists to explore the lower levels of the facility. Jake wanted to object, but Krextall insisted it was part of the test. Don't worry, Captain, Lisa said. Max and I will be fine. Jake watched them disappear down a stairway. Something felt wrong, but he couldn't put his finger on what it was. Lisa's team was taken to a section of the facility that looked abandoned. The lights were dim, and many of the rooms were empty. Their job was to collect samples from creatures that had been studied there years ago. This place gives me the creeps, Lisa said to one of the Vorthic scientists. The facility is perfectly safe, the alien replied. All dangerous specimens were removed long ago. Max didn't agree. He kept sniffing the air and whining. His fur stood up on his back, and he stayed very close to Lisa. They worked for 2 hours, collecting dust and small samples from empty cages. Lisa found the whole thing strange. Why would the Hegemony want samples from creatures that were no longer there? Then the lights went out. Emergency power came on a few seconds later, but it was much dimmer. An alarm started blaring. What's happening? Lisa asked. One of the Vorthic was talking into his communication device. There's been an equipment failure, he said. We need to evacuate this section immediately. They started walking back toward the exit, but when they got there, the door was sealed shut. The Vorthic tried to open it, but nothing happened. The security system must have activated, the other Vorthic said. We're locked in until maintenance can fix the problem. Lisa tried her own communicator, but she couldn't reach anyone on the surface. How long until they get us out? Could be several hours, the first Vorthic replied. Max was getting more and more agitated. He ran back and forth in the hallway, barking at the walls and ceiling. Then Lisa heard what he was hearing. A deep rumbling sound was coming from somewhere above them. Is this facility structurally sound? She asked. The Vorthic looked at each other. There may be some minor settling in the older sections, one admitted. The rumbling got louder. Dust started falling from the ceiling. We need to get out of here now, Lisa said. But as they ran back down the hallway, a section of the ceiling collapsed behind them. They were trapped in the lower level with no way back to the exit. Up on the surface, Jake was watching everything. On security monitors in the control room, Admiral Krextall stood beside him with a satisfied expression. Unfortunate equipment failure, the Admiral said. These things happen in old facilities. You planned this, Jake said angrily. The test measures how humans respond to hopeless situations. Will Dr. Parker maintain rational thought, or will emotional panic take over? Zethkar and Salix were also watching the monitors. Fascinating, Zethkar said. The human stress levels are rising rapidly. Soon we will see if she breaks down completely. On the screen, they could see Lisa trying to stay calm while the Vorthic scientists checked their equipment. Max was running around the small space, clearly upset. The animal's panic will make the situation worse for the human, Salix observed. This proves our theory about the weakness of emotional bonds. But Jake noticed something the aliens missed. Max wasn't panicking randomly. He was investigating. The dog was systematically checking every corner of the room, sniffing at walls and listening at doors. Another section of ceiling collapsed, blocking their path even more. Now Lisa and her team were trapped in a space about the size of a large closet. The structural failure is accelerating, Admiral Krextall said. Your human has perhaps 10 minutes before that section collapses completely. Send in a rescue team, Jake demanded. Too dangerous. A collapse could spread to other areas. We cannot risk more lives for one individual. Zethkar nodded in agreement. A logical decision. The needs of many outweigh the needs of one. That's not how humans think, Jake said. On the monitor, they watched Lisa comfort Max as the dog pressed against her legs. She was scared, but she wasn't giving up. There has to be another way out, she said to the Vorthik. These facilities always have emergency exits. Not from this section, one replied. This was a dead-end storage area. But Max had found something. He was pawing at a section of wall that looked different from the rest. Lisa came over to see what he had discovered. This looks like it might be a maintenance panel, she said. The ceiling groaned ominously above them. More dust fell down. In the control room, Admiral Krextall checked his timer. 5 minutes remaining, he announced. Will the human maintain? Hope, or will she accept the inevitable? Jake clenched his fists as he watched Lisa work desperately to open the panel Max had found. The aliens around him were treating this like an interesting experiment instead of a person's life. But they were about to learn something important about humans and their dogs. When you put them in an impossible situation, they don't just give up. They fight back. Lisa's fingers worked frantically on the maintenance panel that Max had found. The metal was old and rusty, but she managed to pry it open. Behind it was a narrow tunnel that looked like it led upward. It's some kind of ventilation shaft, she told the Vorthik scientists. But it's too small for us to fit through. The two aliens looked at the opening and shook their heads. Even if we could fit, we don't know where it leads. It could be a dead end. More ceiling pieces crashed down around them. Their safe space was getting smaller by the minute. In the control room, Jake couldn't stand it anymore. I'm going down. There, he told Admiral Krextall. Absolutely not, the Admiral replied. The structural collapse is spreading. We cannot risk more personnel. She's my crew member. I won't abandon her. Zethkar placed one of his 4 hands on Jake's shoulder. Captain, you must think logically. One life is not worth risking many lives. Tony, Kate, come with me, Jake called to his engineer and security chief. Sir, the Admiral is right, Kate Sullivan said. It's too dangerous. But Tony Rodriguez was already grabbing rescue equipment. Lisa saved my life during the engine room fire on Europa Station. I'm not leaving her now. Admiral Krextall stepped in front of them. I cannot allow this. As host of this facility, I have authority over all rescue operations. Jake looked the Admiral straight in the eyes. Then you'll have to stop me by force. The tension in the control room was thick. The Hegemony guards put their hands on their weapons. But Jake didn't back down. Meanwhile, down in the collapsed section, Lisa was facing the same impossible choice. The ventilation shaft was too narrow for humans, but it might be big enough for Max. I could send Max through, she said to the Vorthik. He might be able to find help. The creature cannot communicate with the rescue teams, one of the Vorthik pointed out. Even if it reached the surface, how would it tell them where you are? Lisa looked at Max. The dog was watching her with those intelligent brown eyes. He's smarter than you think, she said. She took off her communicator and tied it around Max's neck with her belt. Go, boy. Find Jake. Find help. Max looked at the small tunnel, then back at Lisa. He whined and pressed closer to her. I know. You don't want to leave me, Lisa said, scratching his ears. But I need you to be brave. Can you do that for me? Max seemed to understand. He licked her face once, then squeezed into the ventilation shaft. His golden fur disappeared into the darkness dot up in the control room. The argument between Jake and Admiral Krextall was getting heated. The aliens were all talking about logic and acceptable losses. The humans were talking about loyalty and never leaving anyone behind. Your emotional attachment is clouding your judgment, Salix said to Jake. This is exactly the weakness we have been documenting. No, Jake said. This is exactly the strength you don't understand. Suddenly, alarms started going off throughout the facility. Something was moving through the ventilation system, triggering motion sensors. What is that? Admiral Krextall demanded. A technician checked his instruments. Some kind of animal. It's moving very fast through the air ducts. Jake smiled. That's Max. On the security monitors, they could see the dog crawling through narrow spaces that would be impossible for any person to navigate. He was following air currents and using his nose to find the path to the surface. Remarkable, Zethkar said. The creature is displaying problem-solving abilities. Dogs are good at finding their way, Tony said. They can follow scent trails. At our days old. Max reached a junction in the ventilation system and paused. There were 3 different paths he could take. The aliens watching expected him to choose randomly, but Max did something that surprised them all. He howled. The sound echoed through the metal ducts and reached the control room clearly. It was loud and urgent, unlike any sound they had heard. Him make before. He's calling for help, Jake said. He's telling us where he is. Impossible, Admiral Krextall said. Animals don't have that level of tactical thinking. But Max howled again, and this time other dogs at the facility answered. Him. The Hegemony used guard animals for security, and they recognized Max's distress call. The sound helped Max orient himself. He chose the path that led toward the responding dogs and continued climbing. 20 minutes later, Max emerged from a ventilation grate in the main hallway. He was covered in dust, and one of his paws was bleeding, but he immediately ran to find Jake. When Jake saw him, Max had Lisa's communicator around his neck and was barking frantically. He ran back toward the stairway. That led to the lower levels, then returned to Jake, then ran toward the stairs again. He's trying to show us where Lisa is, Jake said. Admiral Krextall was amazed despite himself. The animal completed a complex navigation task and is now attempting to guide a rescue mission. He's not just an animal, Jake said. He's Lisa's partner. Jake, Tony, and Kate followed Max back down into the facility. The dog led them through hallways they had never seen before, past collapsed sections and around dangerous debris. How does he know this path is safe? Kate asked. He can smell gas leaks and hear structural weak points, Tony replied. His senses are better than our instruments. They reached the area where Lisa was trapped, just as another major collapse occurred. The main tunnel was now completely blocked, but Max had found a side passage that was still open. Lisa! Jake called through the debris. Jake, we're here. But the ceiling is about to come down. Max was already squeezing through a gap in the rubble. A few seconds later, they heard Lisa's voice again. Max found us. There's a way out, but we have to move fast. In the control room, the aliens watched the rescue unfold with growing amazement. The dog was not just helping with the rescue. He was leading it. He found safe paths through the danger zone and warned the team about unstable areas. The creature is functioning as a tactical advisor, Salix observed. It is processing environmental data and making strategic recommendations. This is not possible, Zethkar said. Our intelligence reports stated that Earth animals are non-sentient. Admiral. Krextall was quiet for a long moment. Finally, he spoke. Our intelligence reports were wrong. The rescue team reached Lisa and the 2 Vorthik scientists with only minutes to spare. Max had found a route through the facility that the Hegemony's own engineers had missed as they all made it safely to the surface. Jake looked at Admiral Krextol. "Your test didn't go the way you expected, did it?" The Admiral stared at Max, who was licking Lisa's face while she checked his injured paw. "No," he said quietly. "It did not." 3 days later, Lisa was fully recovered, and Max's injured paw was healing well. The Meridian was preparing to leave Hegemony space, but the atmosphere on the ship had completely changed. Commander Zeeth Kar found Jake on the observation deck, looking out at the stars. The Centauri officer seemed different now, less proud, more thoughtful. "Captain Morrison," Zeeth Kar said, "I owe you an apology." Jake turned around, surprised. "For what?" "For misunderstanding your species. My people sent me to study human weaknesses. We believed your emotional bonds were strategic vulnerabilities. And now?" Zeeth Kar's 4 arms moved in what Jake had learned was a gesture of respect among his people. "Now I realize we were studying the wrong thing. We were so focused on what we saw as weakness that we missed your greatest strength." Jake nodded toward the window, where Max was sleeping in a patch of sunlight. "Max? Not just Max. The bond you form with other species. The loyalty that goes both ways. The way you turn potential enemies into family." In the ship's medical bay, Salix was updating his reports about human capabilities. Dr. Lisa Parker was helping him understand what he had witnessed. "When Max went into that ventilation system," Salix said, "he was not just following orders. He was making his own decisions about how to save you." "Dogs have been partners with humans for over 15,000 years, Lisa explained. "They've learned to think like us in some ways. We've learned to think like them in others. But how is this possible?" "Our scientists said Earth animals were not intelligent," Lisa smiled. "Intelligence isn't just about solving math problems or building machines. It's about understanding relationships, making good decisions under pressure, and caring about others. Max has all of those qualities." Salix looked at his datapad, then deleted everything he had written before. "I need to start my report over," he said. "Everything we thought we knew about humans was wrong." That evening, Admiral Krextol contacted the Meridian directly. His image appeared on the main screen of the bridge. Jake could see that the Admiral looked troubled. "Captain Morrison," the Admiral said, "I must speak with you privately." Jake nodded to his crew, and they left the bridge. Only he and Admiral. Krextol remained on the communication channel. "Your test didn't go as planned," Jake said. "No. It revealed something that changes everything." The Admiral paused. "For centuries, the Hegemony has maintained power through fear and superior technology. We find weak points in other species and exploit them. And you thought Max was our weak point. Yes, we planned to use your attachment to the animal against you. Show that humans could be controlled through emotional manipulation." Jake felt a chill. "What stopped you?" "We realized that what we thought was your weakness is actually your most dangerous capability. You don't just form bonds with your own species. You create alliances that cross all biological boundaries." The Admiral's expression was grim. "Do you understand what this means, Captain? Every species you encounter could potentially become part of your alliance network. Your pets could be reconnaissance agents. Your friends could be tactical advisors." "We don't think of them that way," Jake said. "We just care about them. That's exactly what makes you so dangerous. You're not trying to build an empire through conquest. You're building one through friendship. And friendship is much harder to fight than armies." Over the next few weeks, as the Meridian continued its diplomatic mission, word spread throughout the galaxy about what had happened on Draconis Prime. The story grew in the telling, but the core message remained the same. Humans had capabilities that no one had expected. The Centauri government recalled Commander Zeeth Kar for immediate debriefing. Before he left the ship, he came to say goodbye to Jake and Lisa. "My superiors want to know if humans can be trusted," Sethkar said. "What will you tell them?" Lisa asked. "I will tell them that trust is not the right question. The right question is whether we want to be your friends or your enemies." "And what's your answer?" Sethkar looked down at Max, who was wagging his tail. "I think being your friend is much safer than being your enemy." Salix submitted his final report to the Vorthik Science Council. It was very different from what he had planned to write when the mission began. Human-animal partnerships represent a form of interspecies cooperation previously unknown in galactic civilization, he wrote. These relationships enhance the capabilities of both participants beyond what either could achieve alone. The implications are significant. If humans can form these bonds with Earth animals, they could potentially do the same with any species they encounter. This represents a completely new approach to galactic politics and military strategy. Recommendation: immediate alliance with human civilization. Alternative recommendation: complete avoidance of conflict with human civilization. 6 months later, Jake received a message from Admiral Krextall. The Hegemony had voted to open diplomatic relations with the Coalition. They cited new intelligence about Coalition capabilities as the reason for their change in policy. Jake was on the bridge with Lisa and Max when the message came through. Max was sleeping in his favorite spot by the navigation console. "Did we just accidentally prevent a war?" Lisa asked. "I think we did," Jake replied. "All because they underestimated a dog." Lisa scratched Max behind his ears. The dog opened one eye, decided everything was fine, and went back to sleep. "Not just any dog," she said, "the best dog." Throughout the galaxy, intelligence agencies were updating their files on human capabilities. The entry for human-animal relationships was changed from emotional weakness to strategic asset of unknown potential. But on the Meridian, none of that mattered. What mattered was that Lisa and Max were safe. The crew was working together, and they were heading home to Earth. The stars looked the same as always, but everything had changed. The galaxy now knew that humans came with friends. And human friends were the most dangerous thing of all, because once you had them, they would never let you down. Max stretched and yawned, and settled back into his nap. He didn't know that. He had just changed galactic history. He only knew that his human was safe and happy. For a dog, that was enough.